Let's talk collecting manga. Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome to the golden age of collecting manga. Ever since I joined the community of manga readers, manga collectors, I've noticed that there's been a multitude of different formats out there, each one of them having pros and cons. But I can't help but notice that currently I feel like we are truly in the golden age of collected editions when it comes to the medium of manga. Traditionally, manga was always collected in tankobon volumes. That's not exactly what I have in my hand because this is the Call of Cthulhu, which is kind of an all-in-one, but it usually has this size and dimension, has 8 to 12 chapters, and is one singular volume of a series. Now there can be some variations to the height and width of these specific tankobons, but typically they're around this size and feel when it comes to in the hand and reading. But one thing that we've noticed somewhat recently, that we have now been getting some hardcover tankobons, hardcover single volumes, which is very interesting and a lot of fun. I think it's a great addition to this format, which was already beloved, but on top of that, it being a hardcover now allows it to just have a little bit more shelf life, be able to take a little bit more of a beating while you're reading it. You don't have to read it as gently, because sometimes with these paperback editions, you do see spines getting damaged, you see pages getting wrinkled, you see a multitude of issues. It is very easy to read on the go, but I think this is a great addition to the tankobon format, but these are just singular volumes. What about the people that do want more of a story in a volume? What about people that want a better edition? That's when we are introduced to the Manga Omnibus. Now, manga omnibuses are very different from that of comic book omnibuses, but two of the more known variations are typically the Viz Bigs and the Dark Horse Omnibus. The Dark Horse Omnibus used to be the weakest of the two popular versions of the collected edition manga volumes, and they were always the same size as a tankobon, but just tended to have either 2 volumes or 3 volumes in one singular omnibus volume. Now, one thing that tons of people notice almost immediately while reading is there is tons of gutter loss. The page quality when it comes to the paper that the manga is printed on is not always the best. Sometimes details are lost or muddied as you're reading, so this was not always the best way to read manga in the best quality. We then saw some different positives being implemented from other publishers, such as this The Walking Cat by 7 Seas. This is almost the same setup as the Dark Horse Omnibus that we were seeing so regularly, the format of, the size of, the style of spine, but this was immediately better, and we started to see, especially as of recently, that Dark Horse wanted to start implementing some of those changes as well. To the point now we have a modern Dark Horse Omnibus, which is much taller in size, the page quality is way better, and then the spines on top of that are not as brittle. One of the biggest drawbacks of a Dark Horse Omnibus when it came to their mangas that they were putting out is you would read them and the spines would crack, the spines would break, and if you are a manga collector or even a comic book collector, we know that spines matter because that's how we display our books. So that was always a huge drawback for tons of people, plus it feeling a little bit denser in the hand, but this is a much more compact edition. The page quality is beautiful, the blacks and whites are vibrant. I think Dark Horse has made a lot of positive strides in the right direction. And then we had the Viz Big, which was probably the most popular out of the two most published editions of collected editions when it came to manga. Here with Vagabond and here with Dragon Ball, one of the things that you notice immediately is these are large books. These have lots of pages. This is a 3-in-1, and on top of that there's always nice details with Viz Bigs where they actually put characters, typically connecting spines, on the spines of the Viz Bigs themselves. So when you're displaying them, they look beautiful on the shelf. But the huge drawback for tons of people was the glued binding. There's tons of horror stories when it came to reading Viz Bigs and pages falling out. Sometimes people even receiving Viz Bigs and them just falling apart immediately. So there was some drawbacks even to this format, but I think most people that are in the collected editions world of manga usually talk about Viz Big in fairly high regard because this was the creme de la creme for its time. But when you operate outside of the realm of the Viz Bigs, you then have the Viz Signature line, which is typically 2 or 3 in one singular volume, and they tend to be the superior choice when it comes to the formats that Viz tends to offer. Now, these are all pristine collections. These were some of the books that a lot of people were seeking. For example, Death Note's Black Edition, where they added a little detail where the outside of the pages were black. Monster Perfect Edition, which was recollecting Monster, which was long out of print in singles. So some of these were extremely groundbreaking, and they were a great format. They read beautiful, they looked amazing on the shelf. There was typically no issues with this format. But of course, Manga kept pushing the bar and gave us another format, which was the hardcover omnibus format. We actually saw a multitude of publishers putting out this style of manga volume, which typically collected 3 in 1, and we saw it from 7 Seas when it came to The Girl from the Other Side, Viz when it came to the Junji Ito stuff. We even saw Kodansha Comics jumping into the ring, and then we even had Viz Signature putting out these hardcover omnibus editions, and these did seem like the superior way to collect. The Girl from the Other Side is a somewhat recent release, and they really perfected the format, putting it in a much smaller package compared to more earlier releases in this format, but it always seemed a little bit less pristine when it came to the feel overall. The Girl from the Other Side is the one exception, but when it comes to all of these titles, the page quality felt lacking. The sewn binding, while it was sewn, felt a little bit weak when it came to the integrity of the spine, so it always felt like there was a better option out there, which is when we started to see the 1.5 in 1s. So these tend to collect 1.5 volumes in one collected edition volume, and they tend to be extremely beautiful. These are hardcovers, they are designed beautifully, the spines hold up, and even in some cases, like Soul Eater here by Square Enix, we have full glossy pages. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of glossy pages when it comes to manga. I think it does read a little bit better when it comes to matte paper, but just the addition of the glossy or high gloss paper makes it feel even more pristine, even more important in the hand, which is great to have when we're spending our hard-earned cash on these volumes. And this seemed to be, once again, the new superior way of collecting manga. We had tons of titles getting a release that was similar to this style, until we started to see even more variations of what seemed to be manga publishers testing the water. For example, these formats here. So we have Levios here, which is a Viz Signature book. Yes, a Viz Signature book. And this reads from left to right, which was a very rare change that they implemented to manga out there, only really seeing it when it came to Blade of the Immortal. But then we also had something like this, which is still a 1.5 in 1 volume, collected edition volume, but it is in full color, which nobody was expecting, especially when it came to the title of Parasite, and it was a great format. It was a great feeling to see a manga in full color. We got this pristine edition that had all of the colors that we wanted, the design that we wanted, because this has connecting spines, looks great on the shelf, and it's in a hardcover format. But then we started seeing things like this volume here, which is a Bara. It is a all-in-one, but on the cover, which you can see, it's called the Complete Deluxe Edition. So we started throwing around the term of deluxe edition, and I guess that got the wheels turning when it came to a specific publisher by the name of Dark Horse, of what exactly a deluxe edition is and what the term deluxe edition meant, which is when we started to see the Dark Horse deluxe editions. Berserk was the first title to be released in this format, and immediately the popularity of this format, of this title, caused these volumes to fall or fly off the shelves, and on top of that, caused them to become evergreen, which means they are forever going to be in print. We started to see even more titles receive this treatment, from Blade of the Immortal to Helsing to some of the more recent releases such as At the Mountains of Madness and Trigun, which Trigun, for example, is a manga that's been long out of print, and now we're getting it in a deluxe pristine format, which is absolutely crazy to say, because for a very long time, the oversized trim of these manga volumes was usually reserved for special editions, such as box sets. So we have here the Ghost in the Shell box set volume, which is a oversized format with high gloss paper. We have the Alita Battle Angel box set, which again, oversized format. The Akira 75th anniversary box set, where we had a hardcover oversized format again, and even the Nausicaa 2-volume set box set, where it was once again a oversized format, the same size as these Dark Horse Deluxe editions that we've been getting outside of box sets. So it really seemed like we were making strides when it came to the actual and true pristine way of collecting manga, to the point where we started to see other publishers test the waters when it came to a oversized format, very similar to that of the Dark Horse Deluxe edition, but different at the same time. Here we have Tech on Nencrete by Viz, which is the same format, same size as a Dark Horse Deluxe edition, but with some variations. And then we do have a Silent Voice, which is by Kodansha, very similar format once again, same size, same dimensions, and same feel, but some variations to the design. And now we have true editions from other publishers in the deluxe edition game. We now have Vinland Saga by Kodansha, which is the same dimensions, format, and design that we were seeing first put out by Dark Horse when it came to the Berserk Deluxe editions. We even have Ubel Blatt, which is by Yen Press, which is a much more newer version of the deluxe edition. We have a very light format, even though it's an oversized book here. Very light page quality and cover qualities with some added details. And then most recently, Viz jumping into the deluxe edition realm with Vagabond, which is one of the most recent releases when it comes to the deluxe edition omnibus format for all manga titles. And each one of these newer variations from different publishers or publishers that were doing it from the beginning, we're getting newer and more different details. For example, Trigun has embossed lettering. When it comes to the title on the book itself, it's shining in a bright gold, which is a great detail, adds even more bang for your buck. But some of these other details are even better. From At the Mountain of Madness, we do have silver gilded pages here, where the outsides of the pages are quite literally chrome. And then we look at Ubel Blatt, who has a design on the outside of the pages as well, some elven-like artwork, which adds even more to the immersion of the story. And then with Vagabond, the most recent release, we actually have a French dust jacket, I believe is the term of this type of dust jacket. So now we're seeing deluxe editions receive dust jackets. So we really are jumping into the true superior and more pristine way of collecting manga when it comes to the designs of these books. Back to my statement of why we are in the golden age of collected edition manga. And that's because we are in an era of manga where we have the big three seinen titles that most people regard as, if not the best, some of the best manga out there, all collected in this deluxe edition format. And while I don't think there's any wrong way of reading, I do believe that bang for your buck should come into the conversation at some point. Because where these deluxe editions do have a higher price tag, they do collect 3 volumes in one. So almost immediately you're getting more content opposed to that of other formats. And then as if that's not enough, we do have hardcover leather-bound books. It's not real leather, it's probably more like pleather, but I digress. It's a very sturdy book, and I know that personally because I've dropped a multitude of these books accidentally, putting them on the shelf or reading them, and they do hold up. They don't get damaged easily, and them just sitting on the shelf, you don't see tons of page sag. You reading the volume, you don't see any type of spine damage because these do have sewn binding. And then on top of that, the little extra addition of a ribbon, so you have a bookmark with you at all times, makes this the superior way of collecting and reading. I guess I say all of this to essentially say that there is no wrong way of collecting. There's no wrong way of reading. As long as you're spending your money and your time in the way that you deem fit, then you're doing it the correct way for your journey. But do take into account that these books are meant to be read multiple times. These books are often meant to be displayed in our man cave, library, whatever it may be, wherever you display your books, and you want them to hold up. You want them to have great integrity when it comes to sitting on the shelf and not suffer from shelf wear, but you also want them to read beautifully and feel like something important in your hands. Because most instances, these are the footprints that these creators are leaving behind, some of them no longer with us, looking at creators like Kentaro Miura, where berserk is what he has left behind on this earth for us to enjoy as readers. And I really do feel that deluxe editions is a great route to go. I don't get any type of paid promotion here, anything like that. I just mainly want readers of manga that always felt the tankobon was flimsy, maybe not a great route to go, not for them. The deluxe edition is for everybody. It is a great format, a great way to read and indulge in these stories and the artwork that's contained within them. And we're taking even more strides into the realm of these books being that much more prized and pristine. But that does wrap up today's video talking about the manga formats and ways to collect manga. Comment down below if you're a manga reader, which way you collect, which way you read. What is your preferred route to go when it comes to the manga formats that are currently out there? Also, if you could do me a favor, while down on that comment section and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. Both of those do immense things when it comes to the algorithm and do help out the channel grow. So thank you so much for watching once again. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And of course, as always, stay nerdy.